Hey guys, this is Worm Ceramics again. Just gonna move this watering can out of the way and gonna put it on my shelf with all my other greenware pots because I thought that today I'd throw a planter on the wheel. So once the watering can is safe, gotta put on my Rick and Morty apron, and once I've got that on, we're gonna head on over to my wheel. And so in the meantime, I wedged a mound of clay and made it into a ball shape. And normally, for dramatic effect, I like to sort of slap the clay down on the bat as hard as I can, but I've been having wrist problems recently, so not going to do that today, unfortunately. So instead, just going to really pat it down to seal it onto the bat, because when we turn on the wheel and put it up on full speed, we don't want the mound of clay to go flying off. That's actually happened to me a couple of times before, so don't want that to happen today. So once that's all set, we're going to turn the wheel on up to full speed and really make sure that the clay remains wet. So we're going to use lots of water because we don't want to feel any friction. If the clay is too dry, it's not good. So with centering, what I mainly try to do is I try to push the clay into the center as much as I can, just to get it under control. It really took me about half a year to a year to really get comfortable with centering. For me, it's still one of the most difficult, one of the most difficult parts of throwing. But once I feel like I've gotten the clay under some more control, I'll start to cone. And so I know that some of my friends, they like to cone, others they don't even bother, they just will center the mound as is. I kind of like to cone. I like to bring up the uneven parts of the clay all the way up to the top and then press them down. Just because I feel like it helps make the mass of clay more even, and I think it's fun and it's very relaxing. So I'll do that a couple of times until I feel like I've gotten the clay centered as much as possible. I'll also as well, after doing this, I'll run my fingers along the side of the clay to see if it's pushing up against them. If it's sort of knocking my fingers, I know I need to center a bit more. But if everything is smooth, it's okay to start opening up our clay. So just kind of let my fingers let the clay sort of pull them downwards, and I'll also use my needle tool to check the base, just to make sure that I didn't go too far down. Usually I like to keep it around 1/4 of an inch, 3/4 of an inch. After that, I'll pull out my walls, and then I will make sure that the sides are as even as possible, and then I'll push down. I'll try to smooth out the base of the clay, just so I don't have to worry about that later. It's much easier to try and get the bottom of the pot smooth and even while the walls aren't as tall. So once I'm happy with that, I'll turn the wheel speed down just a little bit to feel more in control, and then I will tuck my elbows into my sides, and I will just slowly and steadily pull up. And again, I try to keep everything as even as possible, in sync as possible, and I want to pull up and in, because we can always make the pot wider if we want to. It'll be easier to do that later. So try to keep everything nice and tight and under control. And often, so I will pull up the sort of wobbly parts, uneven parts of the clay, so pull that up to the top, and I'll try to smooth that rim out with my hands at first. Also to take the sponge, and I'll try to also soak up that excess water, because we don't want that sitting at the bottom of our pot while we're throwing. So I'm also using porcelain here. So I try to be careful I try to be conscious of how many times I can pull at my walls, because if, porcelain, it's really easy to overwork, and often when I'm working with porcelain, if I'm pulling the walls too many times or playing with the clay, it'll just cave in on itself and fold over, so don't want to do that. But yeah, I'll get another knife. That was a nice pull. And then, just take the needle tool and I will cut off the top part that was uneven and make my rim even again. Oh, my dog is snoring again in the background. I really don't like it when Morty does that. Sorry about that. Anyways, hope you didn't hear that. So, going back to the throwing. Right, I think this is probably one of my last few pulls that I'll get. And just, again, really trying to keep everything nice and even and steady, not rushing at all, because there's no rush. I also, with this pot in particular, I wanted it to have more of like a belly, just a bit of a round curve, so while pulling, slowly kind of guided the clay with my fingers to try to make that sort of rounded out shape. So yeah, I was very pleased with this, with the outcome of this pot. It's just, it's so mesmerizing watching the clay transform like that. Yeah. So I took I took my rib tool as well, and just, for the end of the process, just to finish, to smooth out the sides, to get rid of the slip that's on the surface, and again to just follow the curve that I created with my fingers, just to give the pot just a bit of form, a bit of roundness. So yeah, that's how I throw my planters. In the end, once I really like the shape and I'm happy, I will just take off the excess at the bottom, just so that I don't have to trim it off later, when the pot is a bit drier and I trim some of the excess off. So do my future self, a favor by doing this. So yeah, so after that, I'll leave this form out to dry for a bit, and then cut it off the bat, and I will trim it down. So thanks so much again for watching.